Well, hello people, and welcome to the tier list for the Bridges and Piers maps, of which there are 5 arriving with the near 2-year delayed DLC. So today we'll rank them in our classic tier list format. If you enjoy these videos, there's a whole playlist of Cities 1 and 2 tier lists available on the channel, if you're interested. Otherwise, let's get stuck into it, shall we? First of all, we have Driftwood Reach, which is our first high B tier of the video. This could also probably be lower A tier as well. Driftwood Reach is a European-themed city with a 10 to 31 degrees temperature range, meaning you won't get snow here. With a 49% buildable area, all resources and all connections are available. For your natural resources, it's all pretty evenly spread all across the lands, to be honest. You'll also find oil in the water to make use of the new oil mechanics. And your terrain is very flat and buildable with some slight peaks, more mountains and hills. On the kind of peninsula of land, if you like, with the edge of the map sloping up into much larger mountains. And your starting tile revolves around this little grid over here. So why is it B2? It is a nice map. You'll definitely get use out of the bridges and ports mechanic here. Of course, they're all very water-based. You can get tons of bridges, loads of nice ports. But, I think the landscape itself is maybe just a little underwhelming. So I said it could possibly be A tier. It's a good waterfront map, to be fair. But our main connections come in train and road, of course, into a couplet onto this big peninsula, which has some nice little archipelagos here. Some fun ridges along the waterfront too. So again, you can imagine lots of fun port setting here, can't you? Almost kind of isolate the port out on this little string of lands, maybe a string of port islands. Actually, could be a very good idea on this map. Maybe we'll see that in City Showcase one day if someone watching this video wants to build that. I'd actually love to see that. That's a request for City Showcase. Someone come build a string of port islands on this map for us so we can see it. That'll look quite good, I think. So you can just envision all the bridges and ports you can do here, right? Which is, see, he said the name of the DLC. That's the one. But yeah, your landscape itself is just a bit flat and nondescript, but it is very buildable with lots of waterfront action. So a decent B tier map. If you just want a flat space with lots of water, this will probably do you quite a good job. But beyond that, the features aren't too many. But of course, you can always terraform your own in. Strong B tier map, if not lower A tier. Let me know if you'll be playing Driftwood Reach. Next up, we have Lakeside Harbor, which I think for me goes into just about a must play. Lakeside Harbor is a North American themed map with a minus 15 to 26 degrees Celsius, so you'll definitely get snow here. Only a 26% buildable area, all connections and resources are available. If you're interested in your natural resources, a lot of the shorelines themselves are home to lots of fertile land, tons of ore along the main mountain ridges, and huge chunks of undersea oil to make use of those new mechanics. This is definitely one of the lowest buildable terrains in Cities 2 so far, and you can see why. A lot of the map is dominated by quite a significant mountain ridge on both sides of the water, alongside more of a delta formation by the waterfront as well. But there are islands and space to terraform if you want to reclaim more land, but the terrain itself is what sells this map to me. Your starting tile revolves around a little roundabout slip road interchange with initial grid that almost teases you down to send a bridge over to that island, doesn't it? That's definitely what I'd do. I think, yeah. Get some big arterial structures going, one of those cool new bridges. But it is a really nice map. I love the mountains. And for those CS1 players watching the video, doesn't this look a little bit like Rosalind Peninsula from the Campus DLC? The mountain ridge is almost identical. It really looks like it. But it is a nice map. So lots of forested hillside. Dramatic mountain ridges, again, with tons of chain islands that are teasing you to create these little chain of port islands. I'd love to see it on this map as well, if anyone else wants to attempt it. But big dramatic cliffs all along your seaways here. I love the waterways. Big delta vibes here, right? All breaks off and splits up into the ocean. You could really create some pretty cool city infrastructure around here. Lots of industrial ports, get all the factories focused. Lots of cool bridges. You've got train available too. There's also another train connection over here as well, which isn't too far from the starting tile. This is connected to outside connection via a tunnel emerging the other side of the mountain range next to the road. And then more big dramatic mountain ridges take you up to your map edge. But it's a nice map, this one, with loads of interesting waterfronts and nice mountains. Some good opportunities here. I'd actually quite like to play Lakeside Harbor myself. Next up we have Ribbon Isles, which is a decent A-tier map. Ribbon Isles is a European theme map with a -6 to 18 degrees Celsius, so snow is possible here. 45% buildable area, all connections and all resources are available. There's also 2 of the bridges present on this map as well. For your natural resources here, pretty similar to Driftwood Reach, lots of kind of very random patches of your main resources, with some pretty enormous amounts of underwater oil also present as well. For your terrain, the outside edges are fairly mountainous, but definitely not unbuildable, but there is plenty of flat buildable space across the Ribbon Isles, with your starting tile emanating from this couplet system, right by the middle island, with plenty of coast and port action to be had if you want to get stuck straight into the DLC. There's tons of waterfront around here. It's got a slightly more interesting landscape for me than Driftwood Reach, which is why it goes into A tier, but it is a very similar sort of map. Lots of waterfront. And we'll also see some of the bridges present here as well. These aren't the DLC bridges, these were the free update ones. This is the one that's in Yokeley. It's always fun to see those in. Nice infrastructure. Train police will probably get you for that colossal order, I think. You won't be happy with that one. They'll come for you. But into a little T interchange that carries your outside connections both directions. So it loops all the way around the water. The second smaller island has much more mountains and indeed a lake on it. Some more challenging terrain here if you want to get involved in some gnarly coastal roads. Likewise with the island over here too, where you'll also discover more power and rail connections heading to the outside there. But plenty of nice waterfront around here, isn't there? I do like these mountains. So it's up to you sort of what port you want to build, like an isolated kind of carved into the rock face one. Almost like a bit more of a Scandinavian port. Or if you want these big flat expanses, you can kind of build both on this map, which is nice. And the islands rise up again over here as well. With tons of endless blue, isn't it? I do like that scale on CST, you know, it looks like a proper ocean, doesn't it? It just disappears across the horizon. It's nice. And then smaller islands scattered in between all these waterways before the last mountain peak arises on this one. Over here, where we can also see a little bit of boat traffic. So it's a nice, flat, buildable coastal map with some more interesting, I think, terrain features than what Driftwood Reach has. Solid A tier, you can get some pretty big cities here. Next up, we have Sanctuary Bay, which is a decent A tier map. Sanctuary Bay is a European theme map with a -15 to 26 degrees Celsius, so you will get snow here. A 43% buildable area, and all your resources and connections are available. For your natural resources, tons of fertile land, very coastbound here as well, with some very fertile islands also available to be played with. Tons of underwater oil, as you expect with all these maps, with your ore isolated to the mountain ridges. The terrain is pretty wild, there's some larger mountains on this map, but still plenty of coastline available, and there is some fairly significant chunks of buildable land as well. So terrain is as much as a challenge on this map as you want it to be, really. And your starting tile is isolated with a single rail track here, and then also into this little kind of cross junction. Teasing you down again to develop bridges across all of these island interchanges, right? Extend the arterial system here. We'll also find a castle ruin. This map does have a few of the ruins. It's one of the only ones with them on it, really. We didn't see them on the first few either. There's another little house over here too. Which emanates from a dirt road around this interchange here, which has this looping road around this huge mountain, which is very nice. You can certainly envision perhaps developing some viewpoints here. Once your metropolis is in, a hold pretty incredible views, I think, won't it, across the whole city here. So you can get some pretty good, big and large building done. Of course, lots of port infrastructure as well is the theme of the day. Rail interchange comes down from the starting tile here, under a little sunken section of road. Down to the standard sunken slip interchange here. And then this comes off into another one of the bridges, which then peels off again. Is this gradient better? Leave it up to the train please to judge. Then that goes over the hills far away to an outside connection in lots more buildable land around this coastline. And we can probably string together a few more bridges here as well if we want to. And with more big mountains, again hosting big viewpoints across the bay, there's some more castle ruins and graveyards up here. If you wanted to perhaps bring in a bit of historical function to the build, then you can. And then this comes all the way down, back to the winding river and another outside connection. And before we loop into the chain of islands all around the bay. Again, I think this is another map primed for one of those kind of chain of island ports, isn't it? Maybe kind of bulk storage on one, containers on another. You could have quite a lot of fun with that idea, I think. And then over here, lots of little inlets, interesting waterfronts to play with. Before the mountains rise up over here again one final time, giving you lots more crag, infrastructure, castle ruins by the coast, and then more hills up here. But it is a really nice map. It probably could as well fall into must play for some people. I actually quite like Sanctuary Bay. Lots of waterfront and some significantly more interesting mountains here. Let me know if you'll be playing this one. And last we have Verdant Veil, which is another B tier map. You could also possibly class this as well as lower A tier. Verdant Veil is a North American themed map with an 8 to 30 degrees Celsius range, so you won't get any snow here. Has a 63% buildable area, all connections and all resources are available. For your natural resources, fairly random distributions with significant stretches of fertile land, or again it's just in the flatland with plenty of underwater oil. Your terrain is pretty nondescript away from the waterfronts. It's relatively flat and buildable, so if you like big flat maps with water, you'll probably get on with this one. And then your starting tile emanates from a little trumpet interchange heading into a little grid structure, which again probably wants you to draw a bridge straight over here, don't you? You get kind of a big string of bridges coming out of that road, couldn't you? But the most interesting bit about the map is definitely the waterways. Definitely got more of a delta vibe coming out here again. You can also see actually some quite nice water texture differentiation with the different heights under the water there, can't you? Of course, this update on DLC has come with a big water update, so it does behave slightly differently now. You can check that out in our Everything New in video for bridges and ports if you're interested. But it does look pretty, doesn't it? It is actually quite a nice underwater texture, that. But some nice waterfront stuff to be had. Of course, with lots of port opportunity as well. You probably couldn't get them inland because you'd have to bring the seaway down here, so you're pretty restricted to just the shoreline. Unless you wanted to move the bridges and terraform to increase the width of the seaway, you could probably have some fun with that, I think. But beyond that, it's very flat, very coastal. Lots of forest. Another interchange down here as well. Another little trumpet number heading off to your outside connections. The rail is also running parallel up to your starting tile there as well. Where we'll also see more of the train bridges, and this is the one that was added in the free update. Train police. Probably won't be happy with that one again. But I do enjoy these new bridges, even though this is technically a few months old already, but same theme, isn't it, if you like. And there's a big old lake over here, which is where your water starts from, also running with another rail connection out here too. So plenty of fishing available if you wanted to. You don't have to bring passenger or cargo containers down here, of course. And then lots and lots of little islands scattered through these waterways before you reach your map edge with some nice backdrops. The mountains are nice, but of course they are unreachable. So it just leaves you with a very flat and quite buildable map with some coastal port opportunity. Not the most exhilarating map in the world, but it'll probably do a job for some people, I imagine. B tier for me, but could be A tier for others. But otherwise, that does it for the 5 maps that come with bridges and ports. Not the most exhilarating maps you're ever likely to play, and I imagine with the release of this DLC, there's probably going to be a whole wave of port-themed custom maps from Paradox Mods, which is probably where you're likely to find a much better experience. But if you like playing with official maps, there's some not bad ones here, but some fairly underwhelming choices as well. As I mentioned earlier, there's plenty more CS1 and 2 tier lists on the channel if you like this format, and an enormous shout out to the YouTube members and patrons supporting these videos, with a roll call to our golden patron eggs, Casino, Spartan Angel, Michael W, Bad Wolf, Louis Adlam, Phoenix MD, Blythe, Jamin, and Great C. Thank you so much for your incredible support. If you want to get involved in that, links below as always. But let me know what you think of these, and I'll shut up and leave it there. I thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.